Hello, magical ADHDers. Welcome. It is I, Jessica Bose, your ADHD coach. And today we are talking about when you follow your dreams when you have ADHD. About 10 years ago, I read this book, The Dream Giver by Bruce Wilkinson. And what I'm going to do in this series is read you the chapters in this book with a bunch of commentary that is very specific to the ADHD journey. But what I love about this book is the first half of it is read like a children's story, and it's a parable. So it's a story that you get involved in where you can learn a lot about yourself in the middle of this journey that the character is taking, and it's very literal. Like the character's name is Ordinary. And I love this story so much, and it popped into my mind a couple weeks ago, and so I was like, oh my gosh, I gotta order it so I can read it again, because I feel like I'm in a place in my life where I have done some of the dreams that I had when I 10 years ago, and now it's time to create new dreams. And learning to follow those dreams and remembering that the path is not always easy to do that. So I wanted to take you on this journey and talk specifically to some of the hardships that come as in the neurodivergent community with ADHDers. Like there are separate is a strong word, but there are specific challenges that come as an ADHDer when you're following your own dreams. And so we're going to talk about that today. So let's get started with chapter 1 of The Dream Giver. Ordinary, like I said, is the character's name. So Ordinary embraces his big dream. Not long ago and not far away, a nobody named Ordinary lived in the land of familiar. Every day was pretty much the same for Ordinary. In the mornings, he got up and went to his usual job. After work, he ate almost the same dinner he'd eaten the evening before. Then he sat in his recliner and watched the box that mesmerized most nobodies on most nights. Sometimes Best Friend came over to join Ordinary in front of the box. Sometimes Ordinary went to his parents and they watched together. For the most part, not much happened in Familiar that hadn't happened before. Ordinary thought he was content. He found the routines reliable. He blended in with the crowd. And mostly, he wanted only what he had. Until the day Ordinary noticed a small, nagging feeling that something big was missing from his life. Or maybe the feeling was that he was missing from something big. He wasn't sure. The little feeling grew. And even though Nobodies in Familiar didn't generally expect the unexpected, Ordinary began to wish for it. Now, if you're an ADHDer, some of this does not resonate. You might not have a routine, or maybe you did when you were younger with your family and you were wishing for something more. But that routine life of like, this is the same thing that happens every day is probably not typical for you. Maybe it is, maybe it's not. There's nothing right or wrong about it, but this is just setting the stage of the story. And whether it's a very strict routine of like eating the same food, and there's something routine about your life. There's something that happens regularly. There's this thing, and the little nagging, the thing that's like calling you forward to do something different, maybe something new, to follow your dream, is something you can definitely resonate. So let's keep reading. Time passed. Then one morning, Ordinary woke up with these words echoing in his mind. What you're missing, you already have. What you're missing, you already have. Could it be? Ordinary looked and looked, and then he discovered that in a small corner of his heart lay a big dream. The big dream told him that he, a nobody, was made to be a somebody and destined to achieve great things. Jumping out of bed, Ordinary discovered something else, a long white feather resting on the sill of his window. Where did it come from? What did it mean? With a jolt of excitement, Ordinary decided he'd been visited by the dream giver. Now, Ordinary had heard rumors of various nobodies and familiar waking up to a big dream, but he had never imagined that it could happen to him. He rushed to get dressed, his big dream beating brightly in his chest. He couldn't wait to get to his usual job and tell best friend the news. But on his way to work, Ordinary realized he had a big problem. His big dream was too big for a nobody like Ordinary. He would be embarrassed to tell anyone. Even best friend would probably laugh. Still, Ordinary was too excited to keep his dream to himself. As soon as he saw best friend, he blurted out the news. The dream giver gave me a big dream. I was made to be a somebody and destined to achieve great things. Best friend looked surprised, but he didn't laugh. That's very big, he said. But if I were you, I wouldn't talk about this dream of yours too much. Nobody's around here might take you for a fool. Ordinary didn't want to look like a fool, so after that, he kept his big dream to himself. How many times have you had this beautiful, amazing idea and you shared it with somebody and it was not received well? There's that huge rejection of like, someone's not as excited as I am, or they push it down, or they tell you it's dumb to follow it. This is part of the journey of following your dreams. It sucks. It's a really shitty part of the journey of following your dreams, but it is part of the journey. And in this story, it's Ordinary's best friend who is having this reaction. And you have to remember, too, that people who are really close to you love you, and they don't want to see you fail. They also don't want to see change happen within your relationship with one another. Because sometimes when you follow your dreams, your relationships with the people around you are going to change as well. And so people are trying to protect that. And so it's frustrating and sad and hard, but this is a normal reaction when you have a big dream that you're like, yes, I have this thing and I want to share it with the world. And then you get brought with that kind of reaction. It fucking sucks. Okay, let's keep going. Day after day, Ordinary showed up at his usual job, but while he worked, he thought about his dream. He thought about how wonderful it would be to do what he loved to do instead of just dreaming about it. Ordinary's longing for his big dream grew and grew until finally he realized that he'd never be happy unless he could pursue it. Why didn't the dream giver make it possible? If the dream giver didn't, how could Ordinary ever leave familiar? He had payments and expenses. He had regular duties. A lot of nobodies counted on him for a lot of things. Ordinary felt completely stuck. Time passed, but nothing changed. He began to hate his usual job. This isn't what I was made to do, he'd say to himself. I just know it. After a while, he began to worry that maybe he hadn't received a big dream after all. Maybe he just made it all up. And he grew sadder by the day. How many of you have felt this or are feeling it now, where you're doing the 9-to-5 job, or you're even doing something else and you loved it when you first started maybe, and now you're resenting it. Or maybe you never loved it and you're just doing it out of obligation because bills need to be paid and you got to take care of people around you. Normal story. Sad story, but it is a normal thing. But there is so much hope. Let's keep reading. One evening after work, Ordinary went to his parents to watch the box, but their box was broken. So the house was very quiet. It was even more quiet because his mother was out shopping at Familiar Foods. In the quietness, Ordinary started to think about his dream again. He looked over at his father sitting in his recliner staring at the single page of Nobody's News. Maybe he could help. Father, said Ordinary, I'm growing sadder by the day. I don't like my usual job anymore. In fact, I think I hate it. Father looked up. That's terrible, he said. What happened? Before he could stop himself, Ordinary started talking about the dream giver and about his big dream. I was made to be a somebody and achieve great things, he said. And then he told his father the nature of his dream. As he spoke, his voice trembled. He was sure that his father would laugh or call him a fool, but his father didn't. "I'm not surprised to hear you say these things," he said. "You're not?" said Ordinary. "No," his father said. "You've had that dream ever since you were little. Don't you remember? You used to build that same dream with sticks and mud in front of its very house." Then Ordinary did remember. He'd always had this dream. It was what he'd always wanted to do and what he'd always thought he'd be good at doing. His eyes filled with tears. "Father," he said, "I think I was born to do this." If this is resonating with you, I am sending you so much love because you know what that dream is. And whether you're taking steps to follow it or not is okay, either way. And you can choose to change that if you are not and you want to. If this is not resonating with you, that's okay too. Dreams change, and it's not always like the dreams that you had when you're little might be very similar to what you have now. They might be very different. And as an ADHDer, you have ideas come and go all the time. And so different ideas come and go, and different passions come and go. And it doesn't have to be the same dream that you had when you were a kid that you want to do now. And so a lot of learning to follow your dreams and follow yourself is to learning that trusting yourself piece, learning to trust yourself and trust the universe to be able to follow through with the things that you want to be doing. And I find it interesting too that Ordinary just kept doing the same things. Even though he had this dream, he was like scared to do anything about it. But when it got quiet is when he was able to tap back in to the dream. And that's when it blurted it out to his dad. And it's so interesting how his best friend and his father had very different reactions to the dream, right? So when you've shared your dream with other people, if you've shared it, seeing various reactions from different people, it's also an interesting thing. Okay. Ordinary and his father sat together quietly. His father seemed to be remembering something too. After a while, he asked, "When you woke up to your big dream, son, did you happen to find a feather?" Ordinary was shocked. "How did you know?" he asked. "A long time ago, I woke up to a dream too," his father said, "and it came with a long white feather. It was a wonderful dream. I kept the feather on my windowsill while I waited for a chance to pursue it. I waited and waited, but it never seemed possible. One day I noticed the feather had turned to dust." Of all the sad words Ordinary had ever heard, these were the saddest. Before he left that night, his father hugged him. "Don't make the same mistake I did, son," he said. "You don't have to stay a nobody. You can be a dreamer." Those are always the saddest things that I hear as well, when people feel like they can't or chose not to follow dreams that they've had in their life, in their world. It makes my heart really sad. One of the ones that made me sad often, I have a background in music education. And so I've talked to many, many, many people about playing instruments. I play several. And there's a lot of people who have wanted to learn how to play who haven't. And there are people who played for like a year or two and then stopped playing and wish they had not stopped playing. And again, there's nothing wrong with any of these things. It's interesting to see what people choose to do and what they choose not to do. And you can tell when it's a thing that they were really excited about and then they chose not to do it. And then it's like a regret in life, like, oh, I wish I could have. I wish I would have learned how to play the clarinet when I was little. I wish I would have learned how to play guitar. Now, the thing I tell most people is you can still learn how to do that now. There's nothing stopping you. There are probably some situations where you might not be able to for one reason or another, but in most cases, you can still learn how to do those things. You can still pursue the dream. And dreams, he's talking about a big dream, but big is relative to you. A big dream is relative to you. So for me, learning how to play another instrument well feels like a small dream because I play lots of instruments. I went to college for music education. So having a room full of instruments and learning to play some of the ones that I don't really know how to play well, it feels like a smaller dream. But to another person, it could be a huge dream to learn how to play any musical instrument. It's something they really wanted as a child. Their family couldn't afford to buy an instrument or even rent one so that they could try and learn how to play. And now they feel like they have too many responsibilities and don't have the ability to do it anymore. And it might feel really big. So remember that dreams are like relative to you. They're relative to you. It's very personal. It's very relative to you. And so just because your dream seems insignificant to somebody else doesn't make it insignificant. You get to bring significance to your dream as it is for you. Okay, let's keep reading. We're almost done with chapter 1. When Ordinary got home, he went straight to the window and picked up the long white feather. He turned it over carefully in his hands. He thought about his father and the dream he'd left behind. Then he had a surprising idea. Could it be that maybe the dream giver gave every nobody a dream, but only some embraced their dreams, and even fewer pursued them? The more he thought about it, the more he thought it had to be true. One thing Ordinary did know for sure. He didn't want to repeat his father's mistake. He wouldn't waste another day waiting for his dream to seem possible. He would find a way to pursue it. I love how he talks about the difference between embracing a dream and pursuing a dream. Some people embrace dreams but don't pursue them, and some people embrace them and pursue them. And some people don't do any of it. Okay. So time passed. Ordinary worked hard on his plan to begin his dream. He made hard choices. He made difficult changes. He even made big sacrifices. Finally, one morning, he was ready. Ordinary ran all the way to his usual job, his dream pounding hard in his chest. As soon as he saw best friend, Ordinary blurted out the news. That big dream I told you about, I've decided to pursue it. Best friend looked concerned. You know as well as I do that nobodies who pursue their dreams leave familiar, he said. They set off like fools into the unknown in search of a place where, yes, I know, Ordinary broke in, and I can't wait to get started. But Ordinary, that journey is anything but sensible or safe. Why leave familiar? It's so comfortable here, and besides, you've always lived here. I've thought about all that too, said Ordinary, but my big dream is too important and too wonderful to miss. Best friend shook his head. So you're going to become a dreamer? He said. I am a dreamer, answered Ordinary. Today I'm going to tell my boss that I'm leaving my usual job. Tomorrow I will begin my journey. Hey, best friend, added Ordinary eagerly, you can have my recliner in my box. And with that, Ordinary walked away, humming a tune that he'd never heard before. So even though this was a really hard conversation to have, Ordinary is having with his best friend about how he's leaving. He's going out into the unknown, away from familiar, and he's excited, and best friend is scared. Best friend is scared about Ordinary safety and well-being, but he's also scared because that his best friend is leaving. That's sad and scary. So big changes are happening. And then at the end of the chapter, Ordinary does a little journaling. So the night before he left familiar, Ordinary decided to use the long white feather to help him remember the truth. He pulled out a notebook and wrote "My Dream Journal" on the cover. Then he dipped the quill in permanent ink and wrote on the first page. The dream giver gave me a big dream before I was even born. I just finally woke up to it. My dream is what I do best and what I want most. Oh, my dream is what I do best and what I most love to do. How could I have missed it for so long? I had to sacrifice and make big changes to pursue my dream, but it will be worth it. It makes me sad to think that so many nobodies are missing something so big. Okay, so that's the end of chapter 1. The big dream that you have on your heart, even if it feels insignificant to somebody else, is significant to you. And you get to pursue it if that's what you want to do. You get to embrace it first and hold it in your heart and let it grow and make a plan. And it is scary to go through the process of following your dreams. That's what we're going to be talking about. There's I don't remember how many chapters there are, but the next chapter is Ordinary Leaves His Comfort Zone, and we'll talk about that next time. But embracing your dream is not always easy, especially when you're getting pushback and resistance and rejection from other people around you when you share it. So my invitation to you is to journal, write, think, draw, whatever is the medium that best works for you, whether it's thinking about it and meditating, writing and journaling, or drawing a picture, some way of being in your dream, making a vision board, and allowing yourself to get excited about it, allowing yourself to think that it's possible, because it is scary to think that something is possible, that the dream is even remotely possible, especially if you've been hurt, especially if you have tried to pursue dreams in the past and you feel like they haven't worked out one way or another, especially if you've been rejected, especially if the hurdles seemed so big before, or they're even bigger now for some reason. It can be really hard to open yourself up again, to embrace that dream and to get excited about it. So my invitation to you right now is to get excited about your dream. You have this beautiful, amazing, big dream on your heart and your soul, and people are waiting for you to follow your dream. Not in familiar. In familiar, they want you to stay safe. But in the unknown, there are people who are waiting for you to follow your dream. Maybe you have some medicine on your heart that you get to serve people around you. Most people that find me, come into my space, have such big hearts to serve and help people around them in one way or another, whether that's a product that you have, a service that you want to provide, the way that you want to interact with the world. There are so many different ways. Producing music and providing the soul and entertainment and culture. That's another way that changes people's lives and worlds. No matter what your dream is, there are people waiting for you and are excited to receive what it is that you have on your heart to share with the world, with that person, and maybe not the world, with that one person and that other person and this other person. Let yourself dream. Let yourself get excited about your dream. The plan will come. The how will come. Don't worry about the how. Most people start getting stuck in the how. I don't know how I'm going to do that. That seems too big. That seems too crazy. I can't do that. I can't travel the world. I can't do this. I can't do that. I have blah, 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 blah. Don't worry about the how. Get really excited about the dream. Get very clear on your why. Why do you want to do it? Why does it bring you excitement? What is it that you... What is that spark, that thing that lights you up? Get excited about it. Let yourself get excited about it. Open up yourself in order to be excited about that dream. And don't worry about the how. Don't worry about what other people are going to think. The invitation right now is to let the dream become infused in all the cells in your body, and electric excitement move through your whole being. Okay, if you want to connect with me, please feel free to comment below or email me. I'll make sure I have my information for you on the bottom here. So you can scroll down and check me out on Instagram or email me, because I would love to hear from you. I'd love to hear about what your dreams are and what you're going through. And if you need some support in learning and figuring out how to follow your dream and even what your dream is, please contact me. I love coaching people to help them get out of their own way so that they can be following the dreams and the things that they say they want in their life and their world. And there are many different ways to work with me. Sending you so much love, you magical, magical being. We'll see you next time.